Hello, beautiful souls. It's Elizabeth Bratcher, and today I want to do a little bit of a video around shifting mindset. And the reason why I do want to do this is because shifting mindset is the tool that we use to create any kind of change in our life. You know, mindset needs to be in place for anything else to come into play. Like they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You know, you can set up everything around you for success, but if you don't actually believe that you are going to be successful, you won't be. You know, it's just the way that it goes. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about mindset because it's one of the biggest challenges that people run into, and I wanted to hopefully share and begin to share on a deeper level how it is that you tap into your subconscious and discover and be comfortable with sitting with the depths of yourself. Because the thing is, you know, we all want to be not perfect. I don't want to say we all want to be perfect. Perfect's an illusion. I always say the only thing that is perfect is imperfection itself, you know. And so, but you understand what I'm talking about. You know, we don't want to be losers. We don't want to be weak. We don't want to be this. We don't want to be that. And so, you know, we hold that facade, and we have that facade that we put out into the world, but very much so as well. We also have the facade that we kid ourselves with too. And so we have to kind of be willing to break away and put that to the side to really get to the truth of our mindset. You know, and so that's the thing around it. Like, have a think about, for those of you that can use the example, either as an observer or an actual doer there, think about raising a young child. You know, that child, you know, from baby to toddler is quite dependent, but from toddler age, they start to define who they are in themselves. Their own little personality comes out and, you know, starts to shine, and you know, lots of cheekiness and all of that. It's an absolutely beautiful age, but this little person starts to format, and so you start to teach them about, you know, manners and respect and, you know, their rights over their own body and what expectations that they should be expecting to receive from other people as well. You know, and they get a little bit older and they start school, and so we start to teach them, you know, a little bit about more fair play and, you know, educational instruments and all of those kind of little bits and pieces. They hit puberty and we start to teach them on a deeper level about their body and cycles and, you know, again, stepping out into the world and self-responsibility and how other people are allowed to teach to you know, treat them, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. So they get to the point where they're stepping out into the world on their own, and what we want is this child that is confident and self-assured and does really go out and chase all the dreams that they want and have everything that they deserve and really have this fulfillment and happiness and desire in their life. And that's how we raise them, you know, if we're of sound mind. So somewhere at that point we let them go and they go out into the world. And they become us. We become adults, we become human beings. You know what I mean? Oh, we were always humans. And, you know, but we become adults and we go off into the world and we have this whole range of experiences that somewhere along the line for some of us regresses some of that work. Or, you know, there's situations there where that work hasn't been put into play, even with intention. You know, perhaps the cycle's been there through a few generations, and family mindset is something that's a bigger picture as well. You know, and it's not that there hasn't been, that there's neglect or lack of love or anything else like that, but sometimes people can only do the best that they can. And sometimes that best just doesn't quite kind of give you everything that you need. Okay, and the reason why I kind of want to just point out the emphasis on all of that's there is because it's that same energy that you need to put into your own mindset. Just because you're an adult, it doesn't mean that this work that was done here either can't be redone, and I'm not talking about regressing back to fives, you know what I mean, keep in context with me, but it also doesn't mean that we can't sit back and acknowledge that it wasn't there properly in the first place, and that perhaps we've got, you know, little barriers and self-conscious you know, things that we hide behind and subconscious barriers with blah, 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 you know, all of this stuff that always just comes in and creates who we are, you know. And the thing is, it's one of the biggest things that I struggle to get people to understand, okay. And you know, you may be sitting back, you know, who am I to kind of teach this? Who am I? I'll tell you exactly who I am. I'm somebody I'm 42 years old, and I've been through at least, you know, shit, if I had it all, what am I, 42 to 34, at least 34 years, okay? 34 years of some kind of domestic violence or sexual abuse or perpetratory behavior being put on me, and at times more than just one time. You know what I mean? And that's who I am. That's who I am, because I have been at a point where I felt like I was a piece of shit. I've been to the point where I've stood there and felt like the only reason that someone was speaking to me is because they were obligated to, I wasn't even worth saying hello to. And I remember that day, and that was the day, you know, and I wasn't in a position to actually go, oh gee, that's not normal, I better change that. But I tell you, that piece of me that was always survived, that piece of me that was always going to get to this point now, was screaming that day, and I held on to that. There was such an acknowledgement in that. I thought, no, that's not right for someone like me, for anybody to ever feel that way. And so I knew I had to start shifting. And I'll tell you, it took me some time because I was in domestic violence at the time, but I got to myself now to a point where I can sit and I go, hey, this is how hard I know it is, and this is, but I know, and I know it can be done. I know it can be done from the depths of absolute darkness. It can be done. And you know, it's not just a quick fix, that's the thing around it. But have a think about when we play a musical instrument, or when we learn to tie our shoelaces, you know, when we learn to eat off a fork when we were younger, we didn't do that in seconds. We didn't just pick up a spoon or a fork and just, you know, start eating without spilling things. We didn't just tie our shoelaces like on the first go. We didn't pick up an instrument and play it like a, you know, none of those things. So don't expect changes that you want to implement on yourself to be so quick either. And the trouble is as well, when we open one door, we usually find we're looking down a hallway with a whole bunch of other doors attached as well. And so it takes time. But, you know, some people go, you know what, fuck that. But it's not, we can't sit back, you know, and I'm not going to start again. I probably shouldn't use the F word, but people do. This kind of thing, they go, it's too much work. It takes too long. I'm too old. Old dog can't change its ways. That's such a crock of poo-poo as well. You know what I mean? It's not, but just be prepared to go and acknowledge. We don't have to open up each door and then spend, you know, a year on this room and a year in that room. It's not the point. And that's what starts creating that resistance around shift in mindset. That's what stops people, because they think it's just this, it's a can of worms and a bunch of rabbit holes that they're just not prepared to go under. And instead they'll accept this half-baked satisfaction in their life. You know, and it's just about, I want to create the shift in that dynamic. You know, because a lot of people that are in that place are absolutely these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful souls, but they've just been battered one too many times. You know what I mean? And had to pick themselves up off the ground and everything else like that. And, you know, for me, I believe, like, my life purpose is sitting here right now making this video for you. You know what I mean? I've been connected, for a lot of you know, I'm a psychic medium, and I've been connected and speaking to spirits since I was a kid. You know, but I had to go through all of this journey in between to get to this point where this is where I'm meant to be now. And, you know, and it's funny, I always say I started here and I've done all of this education and all of this crap ass life and awesome fun life as well in between, and got to this point here because I needed the circle in between. So I'm right back where I started with all of this in between, and now I can do that. Now I'm back where I am, you know. And so that's the thing of acknowledgement as well. The journey is always part of where you are right now. You know, I absolutely do believe in life purpose, and I very much believe that the lessons I've had were part of my purpose. And so, you know, that helps me put a little bit of energy back into it. So mindset, shift in the mindset, okay? All you need to start to do is just acknowledge where you struggle. You know, for me, I know I'm quite a shy person, and people don't believe that. People don't believe it because I'm good at you know, acknowledging that I'm shy, and so I very much make sure I keep eye contact and but watch me. You know what I mean? It's, for those of you who know human behaviour well, you pick it up. But what I get is snob and intimidating off the back of shyness. And it's funny because for those that laugh when that know me well, know that I'm far from either of those things. Unless you muck around with me, then I'll be intimidating. But you know, what my point is that I'm aware of that, and so it's something that I kind of push through in bits and pieces. And mindset, as I said, bring it back to when we were talking about the child as well. You've got to have that same energy in it for yourself, and you've got to be as raw and vulnerable as what you can be, because mindset requires you to go to those deeper sides of yourself, your shadow self, and acknowledging that there's damage, that there's anger, that there's this, that there's that there's perhaps a perspective that you've held on too tightly, that you might feel embarrassed or look like a fool if all of a sudden you change your belief systems. And so you've got to, you know, stay in this mindset back there, because that's, you know, couldn't change or look like a fool. But it's, you know, it's not the case, and it's not the point. So where are you? I'm not using reading, but this card comes up a lot when I'm doing readings, especially on the daily reads. And the daily reads I do, which is a moment of reflection for you guys each day to start to help shift the mindset. So check them out, because that's part of the video I'm doing today is actually the live feeds help do what I'm talking about. And you know, this card talks about the fact that one day we're going to pass away. One day is going to be the last day of your life, and you may have the privilege of being aware of that. You may have the privilege of having it quite quick, but you know that moment in time is going to come, and you want to be able to pass with peace and grace. And it's not about shifting mindset so that you want to do. I don't want to take any energy away from passing with grace. We've got this whole life in between too. Don't forget that. But what my point is that if your time comes, if your time comes around, where are you at? Where are you going to sit back and go, you know what, I wish I'd just done that. I wish that I'd just gone down the slide that day. I wish that I had had the courage to do that. I wish that I did all of that, because right now I can see in this moment in time that none of it really matters, and all it comes down to is me. And it's not going to matter what Joe thought, and it's not going to matter what you missed out on, because it's all going to be there. And so you need to acknowledge where you're at. Where are you at? What's missing? What's missing? Okay, because then you know what it is at least that you want to change. And don't think about it on a superficial or level. You know, where are you? You've got a week. Where are you? What's on your list? And you need to acknowledge that at some point in time. Okay, so I don't care how morbid that people might think that is, but that's fact. It is fact. And so write your list, okay? And then I want you to write another list underneath that. That for so number one, you know, I wish that I had more courage. All right, number one on the second list is going to be, I'm going to start facing my courage, and I'm going to do this way. Just think of one way that you can start to shift that courage, whether it be, you know, engaging with somebody like me, whether it be challenging yourself to do something. I'm scared of heights, shit scared of heights. So I jumped 14,000 feet out of a plane, because I knew that if I could do that, and don't get me wrong, I freaked out, and yeah, it was a whole thing. But I did it. Like, it wasn't a whole thing. I wasn't carrying on crazy on the plane or anything. Yeah. Anyway, my ears hurt so bad, and I don't think I've heard the same since. But I jumped out of the plane, and I know now. Like, if I sit back and I go, "Oh, gee whiz, that's scary," I go, "Yeah, well, you know what? Liz, you faced your biggest fear. You jumped out of the plane, so you can do this too." You know what I mean? So that was my number, you know, that's how I counteracted that fear. And so now I've got no excuses, because if I've done it once, I can do it twice. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of logic in that. I'm not saying that, you know, if you courage, go jump out of a plane. But absolutely, you know. So do you get my point? And it's acknowledging that, and then being prepared to do something about it. And on an emotional level as well, okay? You always, like, uncertainty, you know, having a clouded judgment and everything else like that. On an emotional level, that's their healing and forgiveness, massive, massive parts as well of mindset, because it's not about having to perfect the healing or perfect the forgiveness, but it's about acknowledging. For an example, you've got somebody who's, say, abused you in the past, okay? And I just want to give a clear example here so I can get to my point. You've got somebody who has abused you in the past, and you know that person has been held accountable and everything else like that. And so there's people that are aware, and so you're angry at what this person's done. Your family's angry at what this person's done. The judicial system's angry at what this person's done. The prison system acknowledges that this person's done something wrong, you know, and on a lesser or higher degree. Obviously, not everyone goes to prison. Okay, so you've got all of that anger connected back down to that person. All right, and so when we hold anger, we don't forgive. We're a vessel of that emotion. And anger is something that we hold. The other person's not affected by what emotion we feel. So we're just holding that, and we're directing it down. And so we get to a point where we go, okay, I want to bring healing in. You know, I'm starting to move on from this experience. And so, you know, you have a conversation and go, you know, I'm actually getting to a good place, and I'm feeling all right. What you're saying, what he did was okay. That piece of shit, you know what I mean? And so you've got to hold the anger. And sometimes we can have trouble letting go of anger and everything else like that, not because we're not prepared to, but because nobody else around us is prepared to yet either. And so we feel like we've got to, you know, how can the person who it happened to the worst and should be the angriest be the one that's okay and not angry? That doesn't make sense. Be angry. You know, so we've got to take into account what our environment affects with our thought processes as well. But then we've got to think about ourselves as well. Like, if we're not angry, are we saying that what happened was okay? Because it wasn't. And I know it wasn't, so I've got to be angry. But you don't have to be angry. You know, you don't have to carry an anger through. And that's what healing is, understanding that it's about not saying that what happened was okay. Okay? And I'm not saying that the experiences that we've had were okay. But just that I am at a point now where I understand enough within myself to know that my life is worth more than that moment. And so I'm not going to kill myself and reduce my immune system and life and everything else like that with cold and stress and anger. I'm going to move forward because I've moved forward and I've grown, and it's then doing the work, obviously, that all of that healing involves, but getting to that point where it's okay to acknowledge that you don't have to be, it's not your responsibility to hold on to anger, to back experiences. We're allowed to grow from them as well. And that's, that shit happens card that always comes out in readings as well. And that's exactly what that talks about. Sometimes in things, life happens, that aren't fair, that we didn't deserve, that we didn't necessarily do anything to bring onto ourselves, but it happens. And so we can't let those moments become definitions or defining moments of self. Who are you? I'm a sexual abuse survivor. I'm just trying to think of the definitions that people use around themselves, because I don't want to just go throwing out definitions and make it sound disrespectful, because you know what, being a survivor is something that you're allowed to use. It is something that you're allowed to, go, yeah, I am a survivor, whether it be cancer or a significant illness or, sexual abuse, whether it be, whatever level of it is of what you've survived, you're allowed to say, I'm a survivor, but don't let it be the definition of your life. It's an experience that happened that you learn from, and then you move on. Your definition of self should be self. You know what I mean? I don't walk around, hi, I'm Elizabeth Bratcher, sexual abuse survivor. You know what I mean? And so it's just being mindful of all of that. And obviously, as I said, take all of that into the context of what it's meant that's there. We can't let experiences and definitions become that thing that defines us. And that's part of the mindset of society telling us that we've got to be angry, or society telling us that, wow, this is amazing what you went through, and, holy cow, da 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 da. We've got all of this energy around, but where are you sitting in all of that? Where do you settle in with all of that? So, you've got to push aside all societal expectations and bits and pieces, because not all of them are correct. And so mindset is just that, okay, it's being willing to sit with the deeper and vulnerable parts of yourself and understanding what it is that you need to work on. I never knew what was holding me back in my business until I sat back and done the work and realized that I was scared of success. And part of the thing, I was like, what? I was scared of success when I've been busting my ass 100 hours a week trying to make this thing work. But I come from an energy around, through different times and periods in my life where there wasn't success around me, and people weren't, earning decent incomes and all of those kind of little bits and pieces that are there. And so I have struggled with where do I fit in with all of that? And as I said, it was connecting with myself and sitting with my mindset that I actually realized, okay, I've got a fear of success, and I'm realizing I've got a fear of success because the energy that I've allowed in around myself doesn't align with this energy that I actually feel drawn to. And so now I've shifted the balance up, and I'm working on creating that success. And you know what? I still struggle with it at times, and bits and pieces that's there. Like, I'm allowed to be successful. I've put in millions of hours, millions of, feels like millions of dollars, you know what I mean? I'm allowed to be. And so, but I acknowledge that it's something that I struggle with. And so, I do my own work in the background and things like that. So it's a funny thing, mindset that's there. And, I could go off in a million different tangents, but my real emphasis of the point of that today is, look at yourself. You've got to treat yourself like you would a best friend. Have a think about, the way, as I said, that we raise those younger children, and the morals and everything else that we instill into them. We teach them because they haven't been there. So why is it that we feel that can't happen as an adult? You're not a loser because you realize that you self-sabotage profusely. You're not a less worthy or valued person because you need to lose weight and you can't stop yourself from comfort eating every single night. You're not ugly and unattractive because you're not toned because, you're struggling to find the motivation to exercise. And you don't acknowledge that around, that doesn't mean that that's what those things that you are. What it means is that there's something, say, for example, going on deeper in the comfort eating side of things that would need to work on that's there. And it's sitting with the mindset of acknowledging, okay, there's something more that's going on. It's not that I can't do this. What is it that I'm struggling with here? What emotions am I feeling that's taking me there? How do I feel? And then working with that side of the things. Comfort eating is not the problem. It's the reason why we're doing it that we need to address. Does that make sense? And it's allowing yourself to go to that place without calling yourself a loser, without feeling like you've failed, but knowing that you're actually thriving and doing something really positive by yourself for acknowledging that. Okay. So, guys, we're 20 minutes in. I'm going to call it quits there. And I do absolutely know I go off on a million tangents when I talk and things like that. I could have a script written in front of me, but I tell you what, the Hail Marys is going off into its place. And so I hope that the video today has resonated with you. I hope that you get the understanding of what I'm trying to talk about that's there. And basically what I'm trying to do in the essence of talking about shift in mindset, okay, that's we're going to do work on how to, but how to get to that point of acknowledging that you can do it is what I'm trying to get to today. Okay, be kind. Know that the hard work, know that feeling vulnerable, know that everything else like that, that's damn well going to come in along the way is part and parcel of it. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. But don't expect the world to change around you if you're not prepared to put some changes in. Okay, you can sit here until the cows come home and say, oh, I don't do that. But if you're sitting there quietly saying to yourself that you do, well, you know what? Kudos to you for doing that, but you need to acknowledge that within yourself. And that's the shift to make and change in mindset. Okay, so anyone that says I can't, you can. Are you willing to? Is the difference that's there. And you know what? I know you are, because you've sat and you've watched this video for 21 minutes and 15 seconds. So stay with me, okay? Stay with me. This journey is going to get fun. Stay with me, all right? Guys, thank you very much for taking the time to watch. Please leave your comments, your feedback, and everything else that you would like to do that's there. I will be deeply engaging with these videos, so please feel free to respond. But yeah, look forward to doing some more with you guys. And just, again, have a little bit of think about what I've spoken about today in my way of doing so. Much love. Can't wait till the next one.